to Fireside Chat about the future of talent acquisition, innovative strategies for finding and retaining top talent. And to moderate the same, I would like to introduce the moderator, Dr. Tanaya Mishra, Vice President and Head of Human Resources India, Endo International Plea. Can we have a huge round of applause for Dr. Tanaya Mishra? I would like to introduce the panelist, Mr. Prakash Hegde, Vice President and CHRO, Prince Pipes and Fittings Limited. Mr. Ganesan P, Senior Vice President, Human Resources and Administration, People Interactive. And Mr. Rajesh Nair, Executive President and CHRO, Polycab India Limited. To start the session, thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about the fact that we are between lunch and us is this session, okay? So we're going to make it as interesting as possible. So the topic today is the future of talent acquisition, which is at one end, and the innovative strategies for finding and retaining top talent. Now, we do have a lot of people from talent acquisition. I saw some show of hands. But let's understand that talent acquisition today is very different than what it was. And when we say top talent, I'm going to be controversial here. Where was top talent when we had COVID? And what are we doing for our top talent? I just had John. By the way, John and I know each other because I don't know if he's stepped out, but we used to, in JSW, we used to have him give us the innovative education with Wharton, Princeton, and all of those, and that time we were talking about retention of talent. And then there is another topic, which is the branding aspect. Without much ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask my honored panelists to first introduce themselves, and then we'll take a round of questions. Would you mind introducing yourselves?
Yeah. My name is Prakash Hegde. I work with Prince Pipes and Fittings Limited as a Vice President CHRO. I have somewhere around 25 years of experience. My previous stints were with TBs at Tribundas, Bimji, Zaveri, and Bharat Gears.
My name is Ganesan. I head the people function for People Interactive. In case you don't know what People Interactive does, we get people married, shadi.com, right?
How many of you in the room looking to get married? Dilli ka laddu.
I do the HR function. I don't get people married.
They can apply. It's always a business pitch. Okay, all right. Yeah, over to you.
My name is Rajesh Nair. I have about, 30 years of experience. 28 years in Tata Motors, 2 years now in Polycab. Out of those 30 years, 18 years have been in sales and marketing. So I switched from sales and marketing about 12 years back. So it's about, in fact, I can speak more about sales and marketing than HR.
Okay, so we have a diverse panel, and I'm the moderator today. I have about 27 years, have been a CHRO for almost 22 years, worked with companies like State Bank of India Life Insurance, headed Shoppers Stop Limited, headed ACC Limited, Group CHRO, JSW, Global CHRO Strides, and now with Endo. I was also the Managing Director for Accenture for Asia Pacific. Now, asking you my first question, with the rise of remote work, and globalization, how do we really attract and retain talent in such a tough environment?
I would first question the question itself, because when did remote working actually start? It started with COVID. Not that companies...
Not really.
I'm saying not that companies did not have remote working earlier, but to the extent that COVID made it possible and COVID made us experience it, it hasn't happened before that. And a lot of companies now are questioning whether the COVID experience was good or not. A lot of companies are going back to the old ways of working, if not completely, then of course partly. Because what COVID experience has shown us is while remote working can work effectively in a situation where individual contribution is important, individual contribution is all that matters, there are certain scenarios which play out in most traditional companies where your work is dependent on your teamwork, your work is dependent on someone else, your work is dependent on your manager, that 100% remote working probably is not as effective. So a lot of companies today are coming back saying that please come back to office. We can look at a flexible way of working, if not an absolute remote way of working. So that I would question the question itself. But yes, certain functions, certain industries can effectively work remotely. For example, even in our organization, we talk about certain functions like IT or digital, where increasingly it's difficult to find talent in one place. For example, I may not find good IT specialists or good digital heads in Bombay. I'm okay with the guy operating out of Bangalore, or I'm okay with the guy operating out of Delhi and flying into Bombay once in a month or once in 3 months. But these are very niche these are very niche and specialized functions for which I will make the allowance, or the organization will make the allowance. But largely, I would say that many of the organizations who have experimented with complete remote working are gradually coming back to a norm which says that flexi working, yes, 100% remote working, no. So that is where I think I would place my bet on.
I'm going to be very controversial. You see, when I was with Accenture, I started my work remotely. And I called myself Alice in Wonderland because I never met people. And this was a global company, and the best part was about stewardship and people actually helping you up. When I was taking a very large workshop and I knew no one. But I think now I completely respect what you're saying, and yes, a lot of companies are wanting people to come back, but I think the model that's going to stay is hybrid, and that's the reason why maybe we've had so much of people leaving the organization. The great resignation happened. Okay, now over to you, Mr. Ganesh. We just met actually. Okay, so how can an organization tap into passive candidates and build a relationship with them to ensure that there is a steady pipeline of talent that comes into the organization?
So, when the Great Resignation started about 3 years ago, I think as an organization, we started this as a process itself. Though we are going to hit lunch, it's like, I can give a simple example. One day you prepare to have a feast at home and you invite people to have a feast with biryani, and you enter the kitchen and find that most of your ingredients are missing. So, talent acquisition people, how many of you here? Right? These are my favorite lot from the HR team. To be very honest, I don't know how many of your bosses or CEOs will agree. You do the toughest job in the building, right? Nobody will acknowledge that, but you guys do the toughest job in the building. Having said that, we started a process by which we were going to meet people irrespective of whether there was a vacancy or not. So I got on board 2 sourcing specialists, one for the senior folks and one for the middle management. And their only job was to do talent pool mapping and get my hiring managers to just continue to keep meeting people, over a period of time. And when we started this during the pandemic, but then subsequently it's actually become a process. And we continue this as well. So before we started this financial year, we kickstarted in April. One of the key OKRs of my sourcing specialist was in the Q4 of last year, that is Jan to March, was we found out 600 folks, right? 600 people were mapped across sales, marketing, product, technology, and all the functions. And out of which I met 75 people myself. So I had a target I gave myself a target of meeting at least 3 to 4 people a week. They would have been, VP.
So is this part of employee branding, or you just wanted to increase your talent pool?
So we wanted to increase our talent pool, and we call this as exploratory conversations. So these exploratory conversations basically happen in a very methodical manner. My calendars are blocked, my leaders' calendars are blocked, and this must happen. Right? This may not give me an output immediately, but it prepares me for tougher times that may come ahead. It worked during COVID, it continues to work now. And now my recruitment manager or my recruitment head, today if I want to hire a sales director, already has about 15, 20 profiles ready who will fit my bill, who fit my CTC, who fit my requirements. So the preparedness that it gives me has been phenomenal, and that's why we've been able to have business continuity going on irrespective of the fact that we had a lot of resignations happening during the the Great Resignation and even subsequently.
So my talent acquisition specialist, I think that I do agree, because I think it's a very sales-oriented role, if you ask me. It's plain numbers. So how many of you really do something like this? How many of you really do talent mapping? Oh, okay. So food for thought. Okay, all right. So moving over. So what role does employer branding play in talent acquisition? And do you really think it plays a role? And what are some of the effective strategies in building this?
Yes. Employer brand building plays a very vital role, because every individual who wanted to take up a job, he will think where I am going. About 4 days back, I was interviewing one candidate for a senior position. When I was interviewing him, he was continuously asking about the organizational culture. For half an hour, I have allotted a time of 45 minutes. I could not complete the interview.
So was he questioning or you questioning him?
No, it is this one. Then I postponed that interview for another day, because I wanted to tell him who we are, what is our ethics, organization values, what is our culture. That has to be continuously communicated. Employer branding is nothing but a continuous communication. One. Second one is, we can use nowadays the technology, social media platforms, all other forums where we can tell about what is our organization, how we are giving importance to people, how our compensation and benefits are very competitive in the market. These are the things, when we are able to communicate, that is turning into an employer branding. Second one is what Ganesan was telling, TA people can do miracle. How they speak to the candidates, how they are going to pitch to the candidate. It is not always. About 10 years back.
I completely agree. And things are definitely changing. But, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly turn over the other side and take a question on diversity and inclusion, right? So over to you, Rajesh. So with increasing importance of diversity and inclusion, which is everybody's agenda and everybody's OKR, KRA. And so what significance would you say, to ensure that talent acquisition efforts are inclusive?
I think diversity and inclusion has been on the agenda of, and on the balance scorecard of most leadership teams across all industries. But the needle hasn't moved. So every year we take a target. At the end of the year, we realize target not met. The simple answer is that unless the senior leadership team makes it a focus point on their agenda, this needle will not move. Because the only way that, and I'm talking about diversity only in terms of gender diversity. There are many other forms of diversity. Let's talk about gender, which is one of the biggest stumbling blocks that we haven't crossed, except maybe some industries like IT, where it is not really an issue. But if you talk about engineering, if you talk about traditional manufacturing companies, you find that there is an issue when it comes to hiring women in manufacturing or women in sales or women in any other function. Even in our own organization, for example, we have a very healthy diversity when it comes to corporate office. A good 25-30% of our population is women. But when you go to manufacturing, the number is less. And every year we face a target which we are not able to meet. And I firmly believe that in this country where 50% of us are women, and women, I would say in some sense, sometimes are more educated than men. There is no reason why we should not find 50% of the women in almost all functions across all industries. There's no logic. The only thing that is holding back is sponsorship from the senior leadership. And to give you some examples, in my erstwhile organization, we have had 2 production lines run completely by women. So whether it's in Jamshedpur or in Pune, manufacturing heavy trucks or manufacturing cars, we had women manning the entire shop floor, the entire line. So it's possible. What it needs is sponsorship, needs support, the senior leadership team needs to create a successful story out of how they have implemented diversity in a section of the organization for it to percolate in the remaining part of the organization. It is essential, it's possible, and it's done. Second, my current organization, we have a manufacturing unit in Daman, which makes switches. Again, it is an industry wherein we felt that women are apt, and this particular shop floor is manned or womened, as you would call it, by 97% women. Again, a conscious call to actually have women in there. Not that they are not suitable. They are more suitable because it requires finesse. For example, watch manufacturing factories like Titan again employ a lot of women. So one, I think as leaders, we need to seek out opportunities where women can come in. And besides that, whether you like it or not, if it's a mandate from the senior management that women have to happen, or this diversity needs to happen, it has to happen. It cannot really be built from grounds up. It really cannot be. So try as hard as you can. If you are an area manager and you want to include women in your team, it'll only rise to your level. It'll never really go up beyond that. It's only top leadership sponsorship which will actually make diversity a successful story in the Indian industry.
I do agree completely. So my 2 bits to the LGBTQ story is that, how innovative are you? I worked for Accenture, and we were actually hiring on D&I, and I'm limiting myself to LGBTQ categories. We actually hired them from the beginning. We helped them to study. Whereas, I think it's the organization and the sponsorship from the top. Lip service really doesn't play a role here. I took on a role of an industrial relations lead. I closed Accenture Bangladesh for Accenture. I was the only woman in the room fighting with the unions, and that story continued. So I think it's about what is the mandate and how do we really, as senior leadership and as everyone in the organization, move that needle. Okay, so my next question to you is, Ganesan. So how can organization utilize data analytics and predictive indices to take informed talent acquisition decisions? And I want us to be brief because I don't want people to get late for lunch.
I'll just take 2 minutes. In fact, this is the most recent experience I had on this weekend when I was interviewing a data science person to be included into my HR team. Right? Somebody was talking about it this morning as well. So the purpose behind doing this, when I had a detailed deliberation with this person, is about trying to understand the talent that sticks with you, where I should pick talent from, where I should not pick talent from, where they will end up going. It's a study of right from the hiring stage, the kind of offers that I've made, the people who accepted the offer, people who didn't accept the offer, their educational background. It largely gives me a trend. Right? I wouldn't say that it's 100% right. So in my previous experience, I had an opportunity to do this in a detailed manner, but though I didn't use a data scientist. So when I was working outside India, one of the largest challenges, in fact, again, why I love talent acquisition folks so much is, basically, we were trying to hire Japanese-speaking talent. And in my view, that's the toughest talent acquisition proposition on this planet. So when we had to hire such folks, we had to do a detailed study of their nativity, which country which state in Japan they came from, which city they came from, what was their educational background, how many people tenured, how many people grew with us. So if you ask me, out of my own experience, data plays a very, very significant role in helping you make the right talent decisions and also understanding what kind of talent stays. I wouldn't say this is 100% perfect. I'm not saying that, that's it, cast in stone, not at all. But it plays a very, very significant role, and those insights did help in making meaningful and well-informed decisions on talent acquisition.
Excellent. So again, I'll give you a little bit of my experience, and I'm going to be very quick about it. So data analytics and predictive indices really help, just not in talent. I don't know if any of you have worked with LinkedIn. I did. This was and it's interesting because the feed that you get when you were looking for talent, there are pop-ups because the search engine uses artificial intelligence to pop it up. We use data analytics and predictive indices for something very different, to actually predict the kind of suicide rates that are likely to happen in a particular facility, because people came from different parts of the country, and some people who came from Class B cities or Class C cities into like Bombay, Chennai, Delhi, suddenly there was so much of surprise for them, and the change. So a lot of youngsters, because of the kind of work that they did, we found them to be suicidal, and this helped us to be able to prevent this. And this I have handled because I did a lot of work on employee relations, so I just thought I'd mention that. So over to you, my last question here. As the exception and preference of job seekers evolve, what innovative retention strategies can organizations really implement?
Today, after the great resignations, retention has taken a very important role in any organization. Actually retention will not start after resignation. It starts from the day when you are going to pitching for a candidate. The first thing is you have to keep your JD proper. It should be relevant. Then the talent acquisition team, how they are going to speak to them, what they are going to speak to them, like work-life balance, how their compensation and benefits are competitive. And third one is how hybrid or remote working, how the organization is going to prefer. Then second one is there is onboarding process. The onboarding process, we have started about 3 years back. I was having around 29% was the attrition rate. Today we are having 19%, which has come down because we started a robust onboarding process. The 7 days they will be in Mumbai. The people who have joined anywhere in India, they will come to Mumbai. They will be there for 7 days. The people will tell what is the organization goals. They will speak to all the department heads.
Should we take some questions?
Then third one is, it is after the job, the once he resumes the job, it is we are having that 30, 60, 90. Every 30 days my people, HR and reporting manager will speak to them. What are the feedbacks they are giving?
Now you have tools available.
Yes, we are having the tools available. Then 120 days. That is, we are sitting with the reporting manager and the candidate. This way we are speaking to them. We are able to understand what is their goal in the organization. And also we are allowing them, upgrade themselves, develop themselves.
So, okay, so what you're saying is basically unskill, reskill, and ensure that they are ready, future ready, right?
Yes.
And have agility. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask questions because we're up on time. Any questions to the panelists, we'd be happy to answer. Anybody, any question? Okay, either we were wonderful or, maybe you didn't really get it.
Or lunch is more tempting.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. I would request Mr. Avinash Fernandez, Senior Director, Workforce Fulfillment, Better Place, kindly join us on the stage for felicitation. Let's begin this felicitation with the moderator. Kindly felicitate Dr. Tanaya Mishra. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause? Thank you so much for moderating this session. kindly felicitate Mr. Rajesh Nair. And Mr. Prakash Hegde. Can we have a huge round of applause? Thank you so much to all the panelists and the moderator. And ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have been enjoying the CHRO Confex and Awards 2023.